Hello and welcome to this special episode of Head On. I have the privilege of having a co-anchor today in Dr. Pushkar, Director of International Center Goa, and a very distinguished guest, veteran journalist, renowned author, a man who knows India better than most Indians, and a pleasure to have him, Padma Bhushan Tully. So welcome to the show. Even Goa had different colonial experience, colonial past. How do you feel being here?
In Goa, I feel very happy. I first came to Goa in 1965. No, 97, sorry, that's right. I came with my family. We had a wonderful holiday. And you know Kalangut Beach, which you know the condition of it now. In those days, there was just one small government tourist place, nothing else there. And so I am a bit sad about some of the developments which have taken place here. And when I remember that visit, I think perhaps a bit more care could be taken over planning and restrictions and that sort of thing.
Coming to present India, this fast, rapid growth of majoritarian mindset, what do you attribute it to? What are the fundamental reasons behind a society like India, which has diversity in its blood, going so majoritarian?
Well, first of all, I would say I am surprised by this because I have written in books and many places that I don't believe India will ever go towards majoritarianism. And I have said that I believe India will always be a country for centrist parties. And I quoted Advani ji in the last book I wrote, saying that he too felt that India could only be a centrist party. And one man really seems to have changed all this. That's Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister. He seems to have had the charisma and the ability to influence people to do what Vajpayee and Advani never thought really was possible. And whether you think it's a good idea or whether you think it's a bad idea, I think you have to give the credit for it to Modi.
So is it only regarding one individual, or if you look at the rest of the world, you see similar phenomena emerging in leading democracies in the world? Is it restricted to India, or there is something more deeper, wider going on across the planet, where people are falling prey or bending more and more towards the right?
Well, yes, I think there are common features between India and America and my own country of Britain. I think that one of the most important things in America, and certainly in Britain, is the sense of exclusion that a lot of people have, because this neo-capitalism model, this Reagan-Thatcherism has not delivered for large sections of population, and for some sections has delivered exceedingly well. And that means you have a big sense of resentment amongst those for whom it hasn't delivered. But I think in India, there may be an element of that, but also there is a feeling, I think, in India that India itself has not been recognized adequately well by internationally, and that India has not done well enough itself. So people within India, a lot of them feel, well, we couldn't be really proud of India. But somehow Modi has given the impression that he is going to make this country a different country, can make it a great country. That's what he's saying he's going to do. And that message, I think, has gone through in a big way. And there's another message which I think has gone through in a big way. I find a lot of people saying, our time has come now. And by that, I think they mean India's time and also the time of Hindus as well.
So it is not only aspirational, it is also entwined in the communal feeling, you are saying.
Yes, if you use the word communal, I'm not sure communal is the right word, but if you use the word communal, yes, it is, that is very much an element in it, and aspirational as well.
Since there's a lot of talk about the economy, which we do not know. The argument is it could be cyclical, it could be more structural long term. But certainly in terms of politics, and this is sort of a follow-up question, certainly in terms of politics, are we going through a critical period whereby we'll see the strengthening of majoritarianism or a reversal of that? That we don't know. I mean, it's anybody's guess what is going to happen. But what do you think?
Well, yes, I'm glad you say we don't know, because I think that's a very important proviso. You know, a lot of people are very good at forecasting the future, but very often they forget their forecast quite quickly. I know, but I think, yes, you know, when Ayodhya happened, a lot of people were saying this is the end of Indian secularism. And I was working for BBC, and so I did a lot of interviews. And whenever I was asked this question, I said, no, I don't believe it to be true. I think that in India things go up very quickly and come down very, very quickly. And I quoted the example of road rages and road accidents. You know, when there's a road accident, almost immediately a crowd gathers and there's a fight within the crowd, but suddenly something happens, a policeman comes or something happens, and it all calms down. And of course I thought after Advani's Rath Yatra and after Ayodhya, I still didn't believe that India would go the majoritarian way. And I was proved right for many, many years until, as I said, Mr. Modi came on the scene. But I still cling to the belief that as Indira Gandhi came and as Indira Gandhi went, nothing, particularly in India, nothing is eternal. And this phase will probably pass.
Another striking feature of politics today is, and which perhaps explains why the current government, the BJP or the political party has been so successful, is the decline of the Congress. But without the Congress or without a credible opposition party or coalition, you know, we are sort of facing a crisis in democracy itself, right?
Well, I absolutely agree with that. I would say two things. First, I would say, don't forget, there was a very strong opposition to the BJP in many parties where regional leaders were strong. And even though Mamta, for instance, suffered setbacks, still more people voted for and more seats were won by the Trinamool Congress than by the BJP. In Orissa, Patnaik did better in both the state and the other elections. In Andhra, really, it was a fight between Reddy and Chandrababu Naidu, and the BJP weren't there. In Tamil Nadu, again, they weren't there. So down the whole of the eastern side, they were not there. So they were there, but they were not, you know, the dominant party. So that's one thing. And the second thing is I draw a lesson from that, and I think it's the lesson the Congress should learn. And that is that if you have a strong regional leader, then it is very likely that that regional leader will, at the minimum, be able to put up a strong resistance to the BJP. And you know, the Congress is one of the greatest weaknesses because of its culture. because of this business of depending to everything on the Gandhi family, and because of the Gandhi family themselves, it has never established strong regional leaderships. And if you look at the present situation, where did the Congress do well? In Punjab. Why? Because Captain Saab, as he's inevitably known, is a really strong guy himself. Without Captain Saab, Congress would have been massacred in there as well. And the evidence for this, you know, is that Congress, if you think of it, once, and this was being said to me the other day by a congressman, if you think of it, where Congress, once Congress loses out in a state, it never gets back in again. And Tamil Nadu, of course, is the classic and most long-standing example of that. Congress, once the All India party of more All India even than BJP has succeeded so far, gradually retreated state after state. And this is a long answer, but one other thing I want to say is that part of the fault, well, a lot of the fault lies with the Gandhi family, because they never wanted to encourage strong leaders in the states, because they're afraid that those leaders will become a rival.
You spoke about Lal Krishna Advani and Vajpayee, and today we talk about Narendra Modi. How is Narendra Modi different from that L.K. Advani who went on a Rath Yatra, or that Atal Bihari Vajpayee who asked for a mandate for himself? What are the striking differences between that generation of BJP leaders and this generation of BJP leaders?
Well, I think Advani ji and Vajpayee really believed that in the last analysis, yes, we can build up a Hindu vote, but too large a section of the population won't buy into that vote. And therefore, if we have a party which is as majoritarian as Modi is, it won't work. And also, I think another thing, if you think about it, neither Advani nor Vajpayee were nationalist to the extent that Modi is in. And that nationalism is very much, I think, what you were talking about earlier. That is the element in this which is similar to what's happening in other countries. Take my own country, take Brexit. And what is one of the things that the Brexiteers, I call them, say, you know, give us back our country, or even make Great Britain great again. That element in Modi was not there in Advani and Vajpayee.
But what's the main reason that so many democracies across the world are feeling that they are no longer great? What do you think is
I think there's a quick answer to that, because they're not. But I think that in the case of Britain, one of the arguments which creates that, of course, is that, you know, we have to, as members of the European Union, and I have to admit I'm a European, absolutely, I'm rigidly anti-Brexit myself, but people forgot all the benefits which we got from being in Europe, and remember the fact that, you know, some acts which were passed in Europe were meant that they became valid in Britain as well. And so people thought, you know, we were no longer the free country which we had been before. I think that was one of the reasons. The other reason is because if you take America, for instance, there's real depression, I'm told, in some parts of America. I don't know America at all well, but there is real depression in places like Detroit, I gather, and that sort of thing. And so inevitably those sort of people. And of course also the other thing about America is the rise of China. Previously America had really no rival as a great power. or the great power. But now Americans see China rising and again become worried or afraid about that.
How has India's treatment or handling of Pakistan changed before Modi and after Modi? How do you judge the shift?
Well, you know, India has, in my view, ever since I've known this dispute, going right back to the 60s, I think that India has not shouldered the burden of generosity, I put it like that, which it should do. I think India needs to realize that Pakistan is much, much, much smaller than it is, that Pakistan has suffered so many setbacks, that Pakistan has been defeated in 3 wars by India. And therefore, you can't treat it as India seems to treat it sometimes, as a hostile equal. You have to treat it, try and treat it, as a country with which one wants to establish friendship. And I don't think India has done that adequately. And if you want to establish friendship, you must be prepared to compromise. You must be prepared to give as well. And now look at the BJP, what the BJP is saying at the moment, there can only be talks on Azad Kashmir, which means all we're going to do in talks is demand that you give us the rest of Kashmir. Well, that's no way to negotiate, no way to search for peace. And you know, I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I made a program on partition, 2 radio programs. And we started in Punjab, and we went right down to the south. And even in Punjab, even among Sikhs who had been forced to leave their homes and re-establish themselves in Punjab, Indian Punjab, all of them, everyone, students in Bangalore, students in Chandigarh, rather, students in Chennai, everyone wanted peace with Pakistan and wanted an end to that. Now, having said all that, you can say to me, yes, what about terrorism? Yes, of course this is a problem. Since 1990, when General Zia started all this, that has been a problem. There's no doubt about that. But in the end, I don't believe that you can simply say, because of terrorism, we can't establish a relationship with Pakistan. Or if they don't stop terrorism, unless they stop terrorism, we can't talk to them. I don't believe that's the right way to go to it. I believe because India carries this burden of generosity, it said, we are prepared for any opportunity to talk to Pakistan. We will, and we want very much to reach a settlement with Pakistan.
Before I hand over back to Pushkar, but how do you think this recent decision on Kashmir is going to change that paradigm?
How is it going to play out?
Yes, how it is going to play out, because if you look at the stance from the Pakistan side, it looks like Pakistan is more eager for talks than India, which was not the case previously. So with this kind of a very masculine policy initiative, how do you think the paradigm is going to shift now?
Well, that's again, it's a difficult one to answer. But I think myself that Pakistan, you know, let's look back to Bajpai, let's look back to Manmohan Singh. They did manage to go a long way towards reaching a settlement. And it was within India, not within Pakistan. that this said, well, not quite true, not in Pakistan. Pakistan behaved very stupidly as well. And even in the Vajpayee case, for instance, you had the Kargil incident, and that was an act of crass stupidity, is all I can say. And you do have this fundamental problem with Pakistan about the Pakistan army. You do have the problem with the Pakistan army has a vested interest in hostility with India. But what, I feel so strongly, what I felt when I was making this program as well, is that somehow if the people of India and the people of Pakistan could appeal over the head of their politicians somehow or other, I think a settlement could be reached quite easily. But India and Pakistan are the prisoners of their politicians in a way.
I get a sense you have a more generous view of India's democracy than many critics. What do you think?
Well, I do in a way. I mean, I'm proud of being in some ways associated with the world's largest democracy. I do believe, firmly believe that democracy is part of the Indian spirit as well. I believe that India's religious pluralism, for instance, which again I welcome enormously, is evidence of a natural democratic openness in society, which India has demonstrated and I think still has. But I'm frustrated by Indian democracy as well, because I would have liked India to have done better. I'm frustrated that India's figures in the Human Development Index of the United Nations are as low as they are. I'm very fond of Bangladesh as a country. My mother was born in that part of the subcontinent, but I am frustrated that a country like Bangladesh, which started from such adverse circumstances, having been smashed to pieces basically by a war, should actually have achieved better figures on some counts in that index than India has.
The reason why Kerala or Karnataka or Goa, not so much Karnataka, but Goa have done well is because state governments have sufficient power, influence to improve human development indicators. And the human development map of India is pretty diverse.
Yes, but you talk about Goa, you talk about Kerala, and this brings home a very important point to me about Indian democracy. Basically, Goa and Kerala have benefited from a long tradition of non-state education, ecclesiastical education in case of Goa, and church and other things in Kerala as well. And what that points to is the failure of the state education system in places like Bihar, UP, and other places like that. And going back to your question on democracy, one of the most frustrating things about Indian democracy is what we were talking about yesterday so much: bad governance, inefficient governance, governance which doesn't deliver, governance which wastes tons of money.
In terms of public goods provision, I mean, we just haven't done well enough in terms of providing clean water, schools.
But it's more fundamental than it's not just we haven't done well enough. It is the governmental system, the corruption, the political interference in it. I was telling, I didn't tell this story yesterday, but the way that the government, what the government wants to do, becomes distorted. One of the classic examples of this is below poverty cards. Now, a below poverty card is clearly meant for poor people. But time and again, I have been in villages where the villagers said, actually, the below poverty cards are going to all the wealthy people. And a very quick story, I was once in a village in UP, we're talking to a group of Haryana, a group of Dalits, and they were all complaining about not getting BPL cards. So I said to them, okay, is anyone here who has a BPL card holds up their hand? And one boy held up his hand, and the rest of them shouted, yes, but you are the Sarpanch's man. You see, this type of failure to deliver, and I think, and this is something Modi has not tackled in my view, you need major reforms of the administrative system to make it deliver. And one of the most major reforms is to get rid of the whole colonial ethos, which still runs through it. De-bureaucratize and decolonialize it. And someone said this only the other day. I can't remember who it is, but someone said it. And I've always gone on and on and on about this. And if there's one thing which I really feel sorry about in Indian democracy, it is this failure of the administration and failure to reform it.
So last question from my side. We have seen a very critical coverage of Kashmir from the foreign media and the foreign correspondents. Do you think after so many years, the foreign media, foreign correspondents are giving its due to India and they are covering it from a fair perspective?
Well, you're a journalist. You know that for a journalist, the old thing, you know, about dog bites man and man bites dog. Bad news is news, good news is not news. I have one very obvious view on this. I don't think India needs to bother too much about what people like me say and foreign correspondents say. I think they care far too much about it. And I also think that, I mean, when I was at the BBC, we used to have these allegations about the BBC being the foreign hand and trying to destabilize India. Well, I can assure you, and I can assure your viewers, that we had no belief that we had the power to destabilize India, and we had no wish or no desire to destabilize India.
Thanks a lot for spending time with us. Always a pleasure talking to you, and I think
thank you
this
for
has
bothering to spend the time with me.
I think for Goans and for all our viewers, this has been a real pleasure, and just thank you for giving us the space and the opportunity to interact with Tully.
Thank you very much indeed.